Hello there, welcome back to the booth here at Mythic Championship 4 for Barcelona. Marshall Sutcliffe with Paul Cheon, and we're heading into the second round of booster draft here, Paul. We saw a great match in our first one. It was kind of a pseudo-mirror match. This one might be a little bit different. Down in the feature match area, we have Márcio Carvalho playing against Guillaume Gauthier. And yeah, we have a similar setup as far as extremely experienced player. This time it's Márcio from Portugal who's filling that seat. And then on the other side, experienced but less so from Guillaume Gauthier from France. You can take a look at Guillaume there. And there's Márcio Carvalho. So yeah, Team Haruruya Latin. If you don't know this guy, you have not been following high-level Magic for the past, call it 3 or 4 years, really his dominant streak. He's been around forever, but he's just hit his stride during that stretch.
Yeah, and we're now going to see kind of the first time we see a white drafter kind of play because, we saw kind of a lot of the pros talk about, what color they want to avoid in this format, and I think kind of unanimously it was they felt that white was the weakest color. But Márcio happened to open one of the best rares in the format in Winds of Abandon, and that's kind of what pushed him into being white. So, Márcio is one of those players where sure, there's a certain color that's considered the worst, but, if things break your way, you should still be in the color that your seat is supposed to be in. And yeah.
Now we have the Enduring Sliver mirror here, Paul. Both players kicking things off. Guillaume looks like he's got a more traditional build here, though, with just mountains and plains. So he is a red-white slivers deck, at least it's in its ideal build. That's what that color pair is trying to do. And unfortunately for Guillaume, this is his first meaningful action of the game. He's just going to outlast his Enduring Sliver. Not an assertive move, especially when he's got a Knight of Old Benalia ticking down on the other side of the battlefield, coming off a suspend in a few turns.
Yeah, the nice thing, however, about having that Enduring Sliver be a 3/3 is that, if Márcio doesn't have anything, that will brick wall the Enduring Sliver that Márcio has on his side of the battlefield.
Yeah, it's kind of the, well, I didn't have anything else better to do, I might as well plan.
Right.
But, of course, that's not really where we want to be on turn 3 here in an aggressive deck. You want to be curving out.
Definitely. Márcio has
another Enduring Sliver, by the way.
Yes, several good options here. Márcio will choose to be the aggressor here.
Yeah, signifying that he plans on using up his mana. And he's going to play a Vesperlark. Card that is serviceable and limited, though not amazing.
Yeah, it just gives you a little bit of evasion. Márcio is playing a specific deck where he just cares about getting it for as much damage as possible, the hyper-aggressive, white aggressive deck. And the thing with his deck, too, is, oftentimes Vesperlark doesn't have targets to get back, but he does have some of those Segovian Angels in his deck. So there are possible scenarios where he can actually he can get creatures back with the Vesperlark.
Finds another copy of Knight of Old Benalia. Though on the other side of the battlefield, Guillaume Gauthier, this time, that's nice. That's what you want to see here, right? Using up your mana to put 2 more slivers onto the battlefield effectively with irregular cohort.
Yeah, now Márcio not really wanting to get an attack in with the Enduring Sliver, but he does have the evasion, so he's going to start trying to chip away. And Márcio actually, blue-white, but actually playing the Frostwalk Bastion here as well because he was able to pick up a bunch of snowlands during the course of the draft. He actually is playing 4 snow-covered lands in his deck, so he is choosing to play 1 copy of Frostwalk Bastion just kind of as an additional creature land to have as part of his arsenal.
Yeah, really interesting here as well because there is a big turn coming on the horizon here with that Knight of Old Benalia coming off a suspend in 2 more turns, and it looks like Márcio is trying to line up for an explosive turn there, leaving the Vesperlark back here, though. So let's see what he's got going on. It looks like he's got Smoke Shroud in his hand. In the meantime, Guillaume has had enough. He's getting in the red zone.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Guillaume's thinking, look, the way I win this is by trying to outrace Márcio. There is that ticking clock with, that Knight of Old Benalia on 2. So on that turn, Márcio's going to be able to get in a pretty good attack, and Guillaume's not going to have great blocks. So better to just be on the aggressive here and see what happens. And yeah, Márcio heads up here, keeping that Vesperlark back, knowing or thinking that there's a very high likelihood that Guillaume will choose to go on the offensive this turn. Another really big card that Márcio has to be aware of, seeing all these slivers, is Cleaving Sliver. And had Guillaume followed up that that cohort with the cleaving sliver, Márcio absolutely needs to have some blockers in the way.
Absolutely, yeah, that is a huge amount of power coming over, if that were the case, though currently not so. But he is still getting in for 5 damage here, so a nice attack from Gauthier. The big question is, what's his follow-up play? Oh, devastating.
Wow.
Another copy of a regular cohort is going to put him nicely in the lead on the battlefield, but this could swing back in the other direction very quickly, particularly with the land here. Oh, not good. It was an irregular cohort that he actually can't cast.
Yeah, Márcio being punished here by playing that Frostwalk Bastion in his deck.
Yes.
You know, if that was a Plains, he would have been able to run out those cohorts.
A land would have been nice as well. He has Knight of Old Benalia in hand as well. Oof.
Yeah.
That was rough.
He also has a Blizzard Strix, which would have been awesome because he would have been able to play it and then blink one of those tokens that Guillaume has on his side of the board, which would just kill the token.
But instead, he has really limited his options here. He can go for Smoke Shroud. I don't think he's planning on suspending the other Knight of Old Benalia, though it is an option if he'd like.
I think we're going to see a defensive Smoke Shroud here, potentially. We might see Smoke Shroud go on the 2/2 Enduring Sliver. And if he does do that, Márcio does have 2 3/3 blockers. And the only decent attack that Guillaume has is with the 3/3 Enduring Sliver in play.
This is a fragile house of cards, however. If Guillaume can find a way to blast through it. I know he has Magmatic Sinkhole in his hand.
He's also got 4 Cleaving Slivers in his deck. So if he draws any one of those, Marcio's in a lot of trouble.
Looks like he has a decent turn here, though. He's got a Talisman of Conviction, and he can use that and also still cast a Bogarden Dragonheart and then set up for the Magmatic Sinkhole next turn.
But this defensive Smoke Shroud is actually working out very well for Márcio this turn.
Yeah, if he can find a land next turn, then he could start to swing this game back in his direction. Right now, a little bit behind. Guillaume really surveying the scene here. This next couple of turns are going to be very important to how things go, particularly with what Márcio finds on the top of his library.
I think Guillaume might just go for the Talisman,
and then Dragonheart,
and maybe even Sacrifice and just start trying to chip away, because that is technically a 3-turn clock.
He's giving up a lot.
He is.
But he has to realize that Márcio missing land drop number 5 and then also the Knight of Old Benalia is important. No, he's just going to pass the turn. So this is huge. So here comes Knight of Old Benalia. Trigger that. Is there a land on top of the library for Márcio? Yes, and it's a Plains. The perfect draw here for Carvalho.
Yeah, curious to see what Márcio actually chooses to attack with here.
A lot of options now. He could just go double Knight.
Right, but at the same time, I mean, Márcio's sitting at 12. I mean, Guillaume could just take the damage and then attack back for a ton. Yeah, that Knight of Old Benalia coming off of suspend, entering the battlefield, pumping the team, and of course, it also has haste. So Márcio does have the option here of attacking for 3.
I mean, he can cast the other Knight, get 2 triggers. It's a lot of damage. I think you're right, though, Paul. It's not enough to actually get the job done, so probably not worth it. And he may want to just lean on this Blizzard Strix as effectively a removal spell plus a surprise blocker.
Yeah, I mean, alternatively, he can play the Blizzard Strix, target his own Knight of Old Benalia to kind of pump his team to have very profitable blocks.
Yeah, it gets a little awkward with the Strix because the card comes back on end step.
Oh, sure. Okay,
yeah, so it's like kind of tricky.
Yeah, I guess he would have to play it main. No, never mind. There's no situation where that actually works.
I mean, it does happen, just not when you want.
Right. It's not just actual flicker.
Right. But boy, you know, I got to say that Blizzard Strix has impressed me time and time again, because while you don't get that immediate effect, you can do it on your opponent's stuff. You can do it on lands. Like, it's just anything.
Right.
And like you said, you know, you can effectively use it as a removal spell on a token.
And there's just so many good enter the battlefield effects in the format where you can just get a lot of value. I mean, Blizzard Strix in your Mana War is amazing. Blizzard Strix in your irregular cohorts to get that additional 2/2 is also incredibly powerful.
That's right, and that might be what we're seeing here from Carvalho, because he's actually going to opt to play the irregular cohort this turn after attacking with his smoke-shrouded Enduring Sliver, and he's going to pass the turn back. So you can see Carvalho crafting a game plan here where he's now building out a wide board that he can use to take advantage of with that other Knight of Old Benalia down the line.
And Guillaume really needed to find a cleaving sliver because those 3/3s are really just holding the fort. That is preventing Guillaume from attacking with all of those 2/2 changelings.
Instead, he found a land.
I mean, if he has nothing else to do, you might see a couple of those changelings outlast, get some counters on them due to the Enduring Sliver in play, but Guillaume not very happy about this.
You can tell by the expression on his face, he's definitely concerned about the way this game has gone. Things perhaps slipping away from him here, just missing a beat over the course of the last 2 turns. He did things, but just not quite enough to keep the pressure up. So he's going to attack with Bogard and Dragonheart, and looks like he's not going to sacrifice anything currently, so he's going to kind of just offer the opportunity for Márcio to throw a double block at it. That would work out for Guillaume because he does have a removal spell. The problem is he's playing against Márcio Carvalho.
Right.
And this is a major issue because Marcio's way too smart to fall for it.
Now
And there it is.
going
There's
with
the
triple block.
It's just smart from Márcio.
This allows him to play around a number of different tricks. If Guillaume had something like the Magmatic Sinkhole that we know about, Guillaume can turn his Dragonheart into a 4/4, but even then it won't be enough. Even with the removal spell, Márcio still has enough blockers to deal enough damage to get that Dragonheart off the battlefield.
That's right. Also Fearless here from Gauthier. He is staring down 1 blue mana from Carvalho that could really put a kink in his plans here. But yeah, that isn't the case. So he's just going to go ahead and make a trade. So
Yeah. And
Guillaume shows a little restraint there too.
Yeah, and Márcio has turned it around here. I mean,
he really has.
That unintuitive line of putting a defensive smoke shroud on your creature bought Márcio enough time to stabilize here, and now Márcio has a lot of different options. You talked about the Knight of Old Benalia in hand, along with that Blizzard Strix, which can allow him to not only deal with a token on Guillaume's side of the battlefield, he can also choose to target his own cohort to make an additional 2/2.
Yeah, it's really tough because this is the kind of the small edges that somebody like Márcio will garner over the course of the game. I mean, that last sequence did not end well for Guillaume.
Right.
Right? He's just like sacrifice a creature to trade.
Right. It was he 2-for-1'd himself.
Exactly.
There. Yeah.
And that is rough. You know, I think if Márcio, if you would have asked Márcio, would you be fine if this happened? He would have been like, absolutely.
Yeah,
like that is
sure.
exactly what I want to happen. And then it did. So there's the Knight of Old Benalia #2 hitting the battlefield plus a trigger.
So now Márcio can get a little more aggressive here.
Yeah, how more aggressive can he get is the question. It looks like just the 2. No, he's getting properly aggressive.
This is
the Carvalho.
aggressive.
This is a Carvalho way. You know, this is how he rolls.
Absolutely.
Bang, 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 bang. He is still surveying the scene to make sure that this looks the way he wants, though. So
yeah, basically he's thinking, okay, I make this attack. What happens if Guillaume finds a way to get my Knight of Old Benalia off the battlefield? What are the ways that I can lose this game? Because now Márcio does kind of want to shut the door.
I love it. He thought about, well, what would it look like if I didn't send with this irregular? Nah, in there. So
this is a lethal attack, so Guillaume does have to block. I believe this is an attack for 14. So yeah, that is 14 damage, which does kind of force the issue here, which means that there's even less of a chance for Guillaume to somehow find something for a lethal attack.
So we're going to see Sinkhole to take down the Enduring Sliver with Smoke Shroud on it, which will allow Guillaume to survive, but a pretty devastating turn of events for him because Márcio has chopped his life total down significantly and is ahead on board as well. So can Gauthier come up with something to get himself back into this game?
Yeah.
We know that Márcio opened up Winds of Abandon. Did Guillaume? Because I kind of feel like he needs one at this point.
Don't think so. It's a tough one to open. because you're never getting it past.
That's right.
He does not have a Winds of Abandon.
Okay, so that plan's out the door. Carvalho will just draw it here and end the game anyway. Oh, planes, although he still seems to be in a perfectly good position. He has, however, lost his flyer.
Right.
And you see Guillaume taking a quick look to see what lands are there for Márcio. Remember, Márcio also has the Bastion down there too.
So one interesting thing that Márcio can do now is play the Blizzard Strix, blink the irregular cohorts, then he can get the Smoke Shroud back from his graveyard to his hand. Then use the Smoke Shroud to start slapping things and, you know, give his creatures evasion. Yeah.
That's nice. There's so many great options with this Blizzard Strix if you're sitting in Carvalho. I mean, he still has that baseline game plan we mentioned a while ago of just using it as a removal spell if needed. But he can put up another threat and get another body. That is fantastic too. And here we go. He's going to use it as effectively a removal spell during combat to kill the 2/2 token and force this into a chump block with the Trustworthy Scout. So it's going to hit the bin. The cohorts is going to hit the bin. And Gauthier is on life support here.
Yeah, Márcio just really just wants to clear the board as much as possible. And yeah,
and
what a turnaround.
Wow, really well played there by Carvalho. Again, we saw in similar fashion to our first game, you know, our grizzled pro with the patient line, with letting the game come to him, right? He didn't take any unnecessary risks or do anything crazy. He just kind of slowly plotted his way, formed a game plan. He took what was given to him as well, right? Like that Bogarden Dragonheart attack did not end up well for Guillaume. And, you know, he was like, sure, I'll take that too, I mean, and just sort of kept grinding.
Yeah, the game is all about kind of the little edges, especially in Limited. You know, a top-tier pro is just never going to put themselves in a situation where they have to throw away creatures. And you saw that in round one, and you kind of saw that here as well.
That's right. So that is game number one. But, of course, we're going to come back and finish the match and have a lot more for you right after these messages.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Mythic Invitational champion Andrea Mengucci, and we're going to crack this pack of Modern Horizons. So go for it, Andrea, but you've got a special ritual before you open any pack, right?
Every time I open a pack, either paper or online of Modern Horizons, I always chant Vren and 6, Vren and 6.
All right, well, let's see if we can get there today. And lay out these cards on the table for me. And while you're doing this, let me know, do you have any preferences? You're sitting down, it's the first draft of the day. What do you want to open most of all besides Vren and 6?
So, Ninja is the best archetype, but I think green is kind of the most open strategies. For example, Trumpeting Her that you see here is kind of like a great common in green that, ooh, Mono War. Yeah, Mono War is probably the best common on the set, so looking for that, but unless there's Ren 6, of course. Alright, we got a Goblin Engineer, which is good in Modern, but not great in Draft. So, the pick here is gonna be the top common, Mono War, just great with so many, it's just so good in this format because Trumpeting Herd is one of the best common and it makes a token, so bouncing a token is just a removal spell. And also if you keep it with a Smoke Shroud and you just go ninjutsu, you can bring it back, play it again. It's just, Mono War is definitely the best common in the set, and I'm super happy to first pick it.
Are you somebody that will be looking to draft ninjas going into the draft and forcing it if it's something that you can even remotely try and force in a draft?
Usually I force archetypes, but this time around is one of the first time that I'm not gonna force the best archetype. I think that Ninja is unanimously the best archetype, so it's really something to actually just the opposite, just get away from. For example, White is very underdrafted, and I found a lot of success with White recently, so I'm gonna try to take Mono War now because it's the best card and see if I get, you know, a Changeling Outcast, I'm gonna take it and go for Ninja. But if not, I'm super happy to take a Mob or Trumpeting Herd out of this pack if Mono War wasn't here.
All right, so Mana War the pick for Andrea Mengucci here in this Modern Horizons Crack-A-Pack.
The booth. So, a little quick word of somebody taking another Mana War. We've seen a lot of that. A lot of people have it as the top common in the set. There's a few competitors in that realm. For this deck, though, we were just looking at the deck list here for Guillaume, and one of the cards that you mentioned, Paul, early in that game or in the middle part of that game was Cleaving Sliver. He has 4.
Right.
And he's playing all 4 and just somehow never found one in that game.
Yeah, I mean, he was trying to play a little bit patiently because at the early stages of the game, he was ahead of Márcio. He had a nice little curve, but Márcio was just able to kind of stem the bleeding by having a pair of 3/3s on the battlefield. So, you know, he was just trying to set himself up so that if he does at some point draw that cleaving sliver, he can get in those attacks, but he was never able to find them.
He does have one copy of Lancer Sliver. That's kind of the 1-2 punch that you were talking about last round as well, making combat extremely difficult. You know, that's a combination that, for example, Márcio would have a very difficult time with.
Yeah, especially if you're a blue-white deck, there's just not a whole lot of things you can do. I think if you're a sliver deck, that's probably, those are, blue-white or green-white are the colors that you really want to see because you know that they can't interact with your cleaving slivers.
That's exactly right. Well, Márcio looks like he's going to go ahead and take a mulligan here, so we'll see how this pans out overall. But Guillaume's the one who has he's got his hands full here with Márcio. Let's take a quick look at Paul Rietzel. He's playing again against Andrew Zigas, and they are, looks like just getting rolling here on one of their games. You see the 2 copies of Orcish Hellraiser there for Paul Rietzel.
Ooh, we see a Goblin Matron. I'm very curious what Andrew got. My guess, just usually it's the Sling Gang Lieutenant is the common card to go after, but of course, a lot of great uncommon payoffs here. Munitions Expert is also a fantastic card to get with the Goblin Matron.
Yeah, either of those 2 uncommons are fantastic pickups, and you can get them. And there it is, the Lieutenant.
Lots of 1/1s here, but Andrew's already sitting at 11 life here, so we're probably going to see some double blocks to try to get those Hellraisers off the battlefield.
What happened? Oh, a Sand Sprinter maybe hit him? No, it looks like he might have cycled that. What did we miss here?
I don't
This
know.
is turn 4. How did he get in for 9 damage? Seems weird. In the meantime, the Lieutenant is going to get hit by Firebolt, so bye-bye.
Looks like we have... All right, yeah, and Paul is just, of course, going to attack with everything, and I imagine Andrew's going to put 2 creatures in front of one of the 3/2s here, prevent as much damage as possible. But he's going to take a ton here still. He's going to take 5 plus the 2 from the Death Trigger from the Hellraiser.
That's right, and that's just how that card rolls, right? It's just you kind of are forced to block it because you know that it's going to pile on extra damage later on anyway, and if you just take it all, you end up leaving yourself oftentimes with no way out.
Yeah, that is the issue with this format where, you know, a lot of these aggressive decks, if they get going, I mean, there's just so much reach that these decks can muster up. You have the Hellraiser, you have a lot of burn spells, and even something like a Dragon Heart off the top, giving, you know, a flying haster out of nowhere to kind of end games. I mean, that's just happened time and time again.
That's right. We see a lot of trading here from Andrew because he's got Return from Extinction in his hand, and he's fine if he can try to load up that graveyard with at least the Lieutenant, but even, you know, another Changeling or something like that would be good, or in this case, a Putrid Goblin would do the trick if he can leverage his board state here to trade that off. All right, looks like we're ready back on our main table, though, so why don't we head back up there? Márcio Carvalho versus Guillaume Gauthier are all set here, so we'll let this game play out and keep you updated on it. But in the meantime, the battle commences here on our main table. Márcio down to 6 cards in hand, and he's going to be on the draw this time, so he'll be even money as far as that goes. But we have seen that Guillaume looks like he has the more aggressive deck, so that could certainly benefit him. There's the Segovian Angel to kick things off for Márcio. It doesn't do a whole lot on its own. Just a little 1/1. But speaking of not doing a whole lot on its own, there's Trustworthy Scout now from Guillaume. So pretty pedestrian start to the game for both players, but let's see if Márcio has anything on turn 2. No, he's just going to pass a turn back after playing a land.
Look at Guillaume's hand, though. He's got Cloud Shredder Sliver, Enduring Sliver, and 2 Cleaving Slivers.
What?
All he needs is to just draw lands.
Holy smokes, he's going to go
But he
for
hasn't found
Enduring. Wow, what a stacked hand here for Guillaume. Those are the exact cards you want to see. Though once again, Márcio being punished pretty badly here for that Frostwalk Bastion. He does not have a second color of mana currently, although it does look like his hand is effectively, no, he does have a blue card, but mostly white
Yeah, and so
cards.
both players kind of stumbling here. Guillaume not able to find land number 3.
There's a land off the top of the library for Guillaume. And he's got the Lancer Sliver, and this is going to get out of hand very quickly.
Márcio has a Frostwalk Bastion. What is this attack?
Oh,
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Guillaume walked into it. He didn't see it, Paul. Oh, that's a tough one.
Not punished, I guess, for the Frostwalk Bastion. He got the value
Cancel
here.
that order.
Wow.
In fact, greatly rewarded. All right, now this happens sometimes. Guillaume is going to have to take a deep breath. Okay, drink of water works too.
Right.
And get himself back on track because he still has a very good hand and is ahead
Absolutely.
on board. That was a serious misstep, though, for him. Here's land number 4 for Carvalho. Does he have the irregular cohort? Yes, he does. And this one could start to slip away from Guillaume there. Throwing away creatures, not the way to do it.
Right. However, if Guillaume does draw land number 4, if he slams Cleaving Sliver, he can still get in an attack in with the Lancer Sliver.
So it looks like he did not draw the land here, and he is just going to go ahead and line up the Cloud Shredder Sliver.
Just making sure there's no
Lancer Sliver.
traps this time around. But yes,
Right.
Cloud Shredder Sliver, the ultimate payoff card for being red-white slivers.
It's so good.
It's extremely powerful because now next turn, again, if Guillaume finds a land, he can go Cleaving Sliver, and he's going to have an army of giant flying first striking slivers with haste.
With haste.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would attack for 11 next turn in the air, putting Márcio down to 2 if he had a land for a Cleaving Sliver. So even though there was a misstep there, the sheer quality of draw here from Guillaume Gauthier may carry him to victory if he can only find a land.
And
Márcio kind of frustratingly shuffling his cards, and look at that, he's recognized that this
Time
has
to
become
race.
a race. Yeah, I think that he's seen that with the way that the game has played out, he's kind of forced into this.
yeah, and I mean, his best chance of winning is just trying to race and just hoping that
Yeah,
Guillaume does not draw land number 4.
Right, he's got a Rocks Veteran, which will help him win that race as well. But let's see if there's a land here. This is huge. Land.
I think he would have played it.
I didn't see what it was.
Not a land.
Not a land, I'm going to
Oh,
guess.
this is tough.
This is so brutal here for Guillaume. You know, he made his life a little bit more difficult with that misstep, but boy, just a simple land off the top of the battlefield, and he has no play for the turn whatsoever.
Oh, and Márcio finds the island here, which is also huge. This allows him to ninjutsu in a Moonblade Shinobi if he wants.
And that could be huge. Just getting any number of creatures in the air that he can start blocking with is big.
He could also just hard cast Knight of Old Benalia here just to get in for a big attack.
But instead, he's going to jam with the team. That's 4-5 damage.
We got the Battle Cry as well, right?
Ah, you're right. 6
Yeah.
damage, or 7 damage, excuse me. That's a big attack. That's
Right.
half his life total. So,
But is this a lethal attack? No, there's the Angel to chump block.
yep, that's exactly right. So even a land off the top would not be enough.
Jeez, this is such a tough spot. I mean, this is one thing that I have noticed, though. Whenever I do draft the Slivers deck, a lot of your good payoff cards cost 4 mana. You want irregular cohorts in your deck, but you want all the Cleaving Slivers as well. And taking a look, I mean, Guillaume's got just all 4-drops stuck in his hand.
Not a lot of great, historically great aggro decks in Limited are centered around 4, right?
Right.
It's usually around 2.
Right, for sure.
So this, this Slivers deck can often play out more like a little bit touch towards the mid-range rather than just the all-in deck.
Right.
And you'll see that pop up. People will hold their Cloud Shredder Slivers until they have like a card like Shelter in their hand, because just having those things on the battlefield can win you the game. It's more about them surviving rather than getting them down as soon as possible. But here, no real, oh, there is land number 4. He was so close. Now, he can just play a Cleaving Sliver though, and oh.
Okay.
That works too, right? That's a lot of first strike that he's got on defense now.
Right.
Seven first strike power is going to make things difficult. Oh, and look at this. Márcio has Ephemerate in his hand as well. And he's doing the math. He's saying, can I just kill you?
Right.
If I blank my regular cohort, get another 2/2.
And then run out the Knight of Old Benalia. And keep in mind, the Rocks Veteran also has the ability to tap down a blocker. Just running the numbers here. Looks like he already ran the numbers, but he's just double checking here.
He was double checking with the judge, and it does feel like he is in the commanding position here. So that's exiled. Now his upkeep's going to happen. Oh, he chose not to play it.
Okay.
I think he was asking the judge, can I just
because he
not?
doesn't want to actually use it again.
Yeah, and that is true. He can say no on rebound. You can just not cast it.
So yeah, he's setting aside that creature because he's planning on tapping it down and seeing you know, if he can get in for enough damage.
Yep, and it looks like he can. You can tell by his mannerisms here that without even doing the math that he's good to go, and he's going to send in the team. Now, let's see, so there's 3 blockers left.
And everything gets plus. Everything has 2 additional power because there's Knight of Old Benalia and the Battle Cry.
2 2/2s and a 1/1, all with the bonus is 7.
Yeah.
So I think Márcio Carvalho has locked this one up here. And boy, the mana stumbles there from Guillaume Gauthier, just devastating, as he could not find his way out, and he's going to have to extend the hand. So Márcio is going to move up here and pick up the match. That's going to be 2-0 now for him in this draft. So he's going to be in the finals of his pod.
Yeah, and he wasn't especially happy with the way that his draft went. You know, he ended up in this kind of slightly aggro white deck. You know, he just, you know, first picking that white bomb, you want to kind of continue moving down that path. But, you know, it didn't really come together exactly the way he wanted. But, you know, it's Márcio, and, you know, he made his opponent pay for kind of stumbling a little bit there. And also just the fact that Guillaume lost that 2-2, I think because this was exactly lethal, if somehow there was a situation, because he had a lot of blockers ready, Márcio is not going to commit to an attack with all those first strikers in play if it's not lethal, right?
That's
so if that 2-2 was on the battlefield, then maybe Márcio doesn't make that attack, in which case there's that one additional window for him to actually stabilize and then run out that cleaving sliver for a lethal attack. So that could have cost them.
Totally. The other thing to keep in mind here, you said he wasn't really happy with his deck. Well, either was Rietzel, and probably most people at that table. Draft is relative. Your deck strength is relative to the other decks in your pod, because here at the Mythic Championship, you are playing the people that you are drafting against. It's not like a league where you can play somebody from a different pod. And that means that even if you're not happy with your deck relative to the format, it might actually be fine relative to who you're going to be playing against.
Yeah, Eduardo touched on it earlier. I think a lot of players weren't so happy with their decks. However, you know, if all the players kind of sat around in a circle and just looked at each other's decks, you're like, you know what? I think I got a 2-1 here.
Yeah, this
Normally
is not bad
it's a 1-2, but you know what? This one's actually reasonable. I have a mana curve,
A little bit of an upgrade. All right, so what we're going to do now is take a short break. When we come back, though, we'll have Rich and everybody else at the news desk. Don't go anywhere.